the Sparks?
Well, the Skinner, of course, a team that support this as we look at the running order. Toyota 1-2, Rebellion 3-4, United's 32 car ahead of the 26 G-Drive, 38 Jota and 22 United Autosports car. Top 8 overall and the top 4 in each of the LMP classes. And some very small gaps in Lmp2 still.
Yeah, and we're just in the midst of all that pit stoppery, so...
I like that word.
I love to see the results every couple of hours, but they never really represent what's going on, do they?
I think it's because we've had that kind of series of interruptions. We've got a lot of cars on very different strategies right now. That's deep still LMP2 field, isn't it, before we get to the leader in GT Pro, which is now that Aston Martin, the number 97, Maxime Martin. 2.5 seconds clear now, the 51 Ferrari. And then another pair of Ferrari Aston Martin with the other direction, the 71 car being closed in on by the 95. Leader in GTM is in 30th overall. It's the TF Sports Aston Martin, hands of Charlie Eastwood. 3.8 seconds back is the 98 Aston Martin, with the AF Corse at 83 in the hands of Nicholas Nielsen, right in the mix as well. So top 3 in GTM are doling out the goodies at the moment.
They are closing on Eastwood. They were 7 seconds behind at one stage, and now just over 3.6. So I would expect Ross Gunn to drag Nicholas Nielsen along, and could be a three-way fight soon.
At the bottom of the timing scoring, 4 confirmed retirements. The 32 Kane car. That was Tristan Gomondi after, we think, some contact backwards hard into the barrier at the first chicane on the Mulsanne. By Collis, that car making its way back to the pits after losing the rear wing, Forrest S's, and then hitting the barrier and doing further damage on the way back to the pits. A 55 sprinter race, again after contact, and pretty serious damage done with the car with a delaminating rear tyre. A punctured front tyre as a result of that spin. Duncan Cameron bringing it back. The team doing a great job to get the car back out. But Matt Griffin retiring the car soon afterwards. And then Euro International, loss of drive, I think it was, up at the just before the Dunlop Bridge, was our first retirement.
Yeah, I think we can also add Alexander West's AF Corse 52 to that. It's not official retirement as yet, but it never made itself back to the pit lane after the accident at the Porsche Curves. However, it's still ahead on the timing screen of the 88 Dempsey Proton Porsche that spent so long parked up.
3 hours, wasn't it?
At the first corner, but they are now running again.
Yeah, Adrian Delena in that car. And how much longer before it picks up a place? It's now 19 laps behind the very stationary, I think permanently so, 52 car. Going back to Matteo Caroli, you piqued my interest there, Peter. We got trouble here for the 26.
Oh no, that's dreadful news for Roman Rosanov. Was at the very, very heart of our LMP2 lead battle, and now creeping around the circuit, and he's only at the S's. So whatever the issue is, it's going to take a long time. What's going on there?
I wonder whether or not the Felbermeyer liveried car might have thought there was a caution flag and shouldn't have passed.
Interestingly, he's done 10 laps. A stint is normally 10 laps.
No, we just saw him in the pits.
Ah, so he's just come out.
Let's hear on the radio to see what Roman Rusanov has been saying to the team. Loss of power. Is he going to be able to get the car back from there with a loss of power if he's freewheeling, or?
It's not freewheeling, is it?
It's not freewheeling, but
he needs to get that master switch off and get it fired back up again. He can even do it well. It's a bit dodgy with the lights would go out, obviously, but he needs to do a full reset on that car.
Yet more, and he stopped. Now, that was a reset. Lights went fully off, flickered, and away he goes again. Now, is it going to be able to get up to speed? There was a fair amount of acceleration there.
Yeah, that's
He's
right.
okay.
So the thing is, if it's daylight, you can actually do that as you're rolling, but it's obviously very dodgy to do it. rolling down the track and turning your lights off, so you had to pull over for that.
Now, will he bring that car into the pits, or will he just try and continue? He's only fresh out of pits 1 or 2 laps ago, 1 lap ago. So it's definitely not a fuel thing. It's got a full tank of fuel in it. But that has eliminated or taken them out of that battle for the lead. Antonio Felix da Costa with a puncture that removed them, and that has just left those 2 United Autosports cars now at the head. And Phil Hansen is 21 seconds behind Job van Uitert at the moment.
60 Iron Lynx car. New boots at every corner for that Ferrari. And who brought that car in? That would be Paolo Roberti. Didn't see a driver change underway there, but and it was Paolo that comes back out again. Roberti, actually a man who's had some LMP1 experience, drove for Bicolis for a little wee while, but probably more known to a regular Le Mans watching audience as a man who used to pedal the Labra Corvette very rapidly. So yet more oddness in LMP2. It really, I mean, Martin joked a little earlier about it feeling a bit like an LMP 675 race at the turn of the century. It does.
And just, as you keep saying, niggly problems. Nothing really major, just niggly issues.
But niggly and serious in the case of some of them.
Oh, look at that. That's fully up to speed now, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Rusinov.
He'll be...
He's just pulled off again.
Hang on. No, it was up to speed going into the corner, but hasn't got drive coming out the corner, so that's going to have to go into the box to get fully sorted. No way he can continue driving it like that.
Has he managed to pull away again? He's trying to recycle power again, and no.
You have to stop. In this situation, there's a time period where you have to wait on the reset. You can't just reset it quickly. You've got to wait. Like when you pull out the plug out of your TV box or something like that, it needs 10 seconds before it's done. It's exactly the same system.
And he's off again.
No, there's someone else. That's Alpine.
That was 36 car. The Alpine
facing the wrong way at the Porsche curves.
That's the point at which Alex West had his problem.
Yeah. But he's kept it out the barriers, and he's been able to do the turn that unfortunately Alexander West was not able to do because he had too much damage to the front end. And Thomas Laurent is back underway again, but he had a scary accident at Spa, and he's had a very scary accident at the Porsche curves as well.
I was about to say, I'd love to see a replay of that and see how he avoided the wall. Well, there you go.
Wow.
Interesting. You know, the chances of avoiding the wall there are slim.
He's got away with it, and he's carrying on. So, doesn't feel like there was an issue with the car. Feels like that was simply a spin that he got away with. And off he goes, back underway again. Where is Rusinov in all of this?
He's not made it back to the pits as yet.
The other G-Drive car, by the way, still in pit lane. Some kind of electrical problem for that car, and may well also be a retirement. We don't know. Haven't really had an update from them recently, but it was very difficult to really solve exactly the issue. They changed the steering wheel on that car to try and make a difference. It didn't.
Well, so far we've had 5 of the 24 LMP2 cars with substantial delays or indeed retirement. We've got the 26 in trouble out there on the circuit at the moment. It feels like more than that.
Well, there's been a lot more niggles than that, hasn't there?
Yeah, most certainly have. Now, has Roman Rusinov? No, he's not completed the lap. He's still out there.
But he's still moving, Peter. You've got the map in front of you.
Yes, no, there's no stationary car right now.
And there are the team waiting for him. They'll have the dollies almost certainly ready to put that car into the garage. TDS will give it a good service, try and work out exactly what's going on. And electrical issues are always the hardest to kind of work out what the problem is.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just trying to work out where he is.
The boys have gone back into the garage now. They were ready for him. Well, they are still ready for him, but there's obviously a little bit of confusion. Has he stopped again?
I think he stopped again. It's too long.
No, he's carried on. He's done. He's on the straight at the moment. He's on the Mulsanne straight.
Oh, what? He's gone past the pits and carried on. Are we picking him up here?
That was a 5 minutes 57 lap.
Yeah, we're picking him up here.
And he's stopping again.
Why did he not come into the pits?
Why did he?
And look, again, Romain is quite a fiery man, and he's not got the patience to reset that car properly. He's just turning it on and off. This time it's worked.
His lights are out on the side, though, aren't they?
I do not understand why he did not bring the car into the pits. Whoa, that's a replay from earlier. Well dealt with the team. What was that? Because the fueling's the other side, is it not?
It's a leak of some description.
Yeah. Quickly mopped up. Right, let's go back into the cockpit of this G-Drive car and hear a increasingly frustrated Romain Roussinov, no doubt.
Sounds like they weren't ready last time.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? It does sound like they...
How could they not have been ready?
I can't understand that at all. That's a well-drilled team, a well-equipped team. I don't get that.
Now we've got a yellow. We had a yellow down at marshal point 20. That would have been for Roussinov, who's parked up on the inside there, getting himself reset again. Back up to speed at this moment in time. This was where it passed out last time as he came off power and then back onto it. But this time it's working.
It's letting people go. No, it's not. A third time in a single lap again.
I was thinking if it was maybe intermittent, but
after MP27 on driver's right. Car 26 stopped again after MP27 on driver's right.
And Edward just informing the rest of the drivers that there is a car stationary at Arnage, and now he gets back going again. Marshal point 27 this time. And you know, that could be, if that situation happens in the middle of Porsche curves, that's a potentially very dangerous situation to put yourself in.
Well, let's drop that car. Now already down to 5th in class.
That's happened a lot of times already, and each time he does it, he actually isn't stopping anymore. He's still rolling with all the lights out, down the track or just off the track, and that's at the point where it's pretty dangerous.
He's recycled that car at least 6 times, and I think more. At least 6 times. That's the 3rd time on this lap. And before that, we saw that car stop, I think, 4 times.
It's perplexing why they didn't pit last time around. Ready or not. Exactly.
Here he comes now, outside our commentary position. Sounds like it's accelerating good enough from what we can hear.
I would suggest he's going to be pretty revved up. Probably best not put a microphone underneath his nose for a short while. A man that does speak his mind, Romain Roussinov. Stays in the car.
So yeah, he was on his second stint of 3. Unless they start going to quad stints for the night.
Up onto the dollies, swing it into the garage, and then plug the laptop in, presumably, and start to try and diagnose the issue. They will have a electrical engineer somewhere in that garage, but for the moment they're just doing the usual checks. And the usual services. And then they'll set about, get the car prepped, and then they'll set about diagnosing the issue and trying to fix it.
Yeah, up into 5th now, then goes the So24 Hasbag Carafe car, James Allen, man who led the race in the early stages of The 2020 Le Mans 24 Hours still going very quickly, by the way. He's at something like class-leading pace at the moment, James Allen. 3:32s. Next car that will go by, actually also on pit lane at the moment, and that's the Dragon Speed USA 27 car. Ben Hanley aboard that car. He's in the midst of, I think, a more routine pit stop than this. Gibson and Orica staff at the back of the garage, but it doesn't strike me that it's one of their parts that's giving the problem here.
No. Now, pit stops for Aston Martin and AF Corsa in our GT Pro battle. They've just gone back out onto circuit. We are still owed a pit stop from AF Corsa 51, and then we can re-establish the battle there in GT Pro, which was going the way of Maxime Martin, the Aston Martin, until the pit stop, and they, of course, handed back to Pierre Guidi.
One matter of outstanding business resolved, and actually also explained, because there was one car involved we weren't aware of. That was the incident that eliminated the number 30 Duquesne car. We knew that on the inside, that was very quick in the garage from TDS. The third car involved was the 31 Panis Racing car, but no further action.
Well, I mean, I don't know how you solve an issue that fast.
Unless it is a plug-in module that's failed.
They're asking for the tear-off. Alan McNish, who's in the box here, had that translated far quicker than the guys at TDS did. Tear-off done, back out onto circuit.
But at the same time, it could also be a fuse, if they've got a problem with the fuse, because fuses pop here if you hit curbs and things like that. So sometimes the cars have got like an auto reset system, but at the same time you can actually have a physical one, and so maybe they changed the fuse box or something.
Well, let's see. Whatever they did, let's see if it works. Back out on the circuit, back up to speed for the moment.
Well, I suggest you're going to find out by the first chicane if it's the same problem, because he was struggling to do a third of a lap, wasn't he, over the last 2 laps before pitting the car. Let's hope that's not the case and that you can continue at speed, because that has dropped what had been a class-leading car. 2 laps back.
Yeah, and that has left just 3 cars now on the lead lap. Antonio Felix da Costa half a minute behind Philip Hansen, who is half a minute behind Job van Autorit in the 2 United Autosport cars, 1-2 at the moment. And then the first in 4th position, Panis Racing ahead of So24 by Graf. James Allen back aboard that car. Remember that he was the man for the first 2.5 hours of the race that led.
And I think rattled Felipe Albuquerque.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something I can't remember hearing that before, but he was genuinely more than surprised, borderline shocked by the pace of James Allen. How is he going that quickly? James Allen at the moment, he is 82 seconds back from Nico Jamin in the number 31 Panis Racing Orica.
Now, speaking about the pit stops for the GT Pro category, one for Peter and his laptop there. Yes. Alessandro Pierre Guidi still owes us a pit stop, I think. He must be coming in this lap, because he's slightly off sequence to the others. Martin and Sam Bird coming in on the same lap, 97 and 71. Then Marco Sorensen and Rizzi Competizione also have pitted. But our lead Ferrari has not for the moment.
Yep, I think he's due this lap.
Okay.
So he's created a stagger somewhere. Alex being told electronic issue. Well, we could kind of guess that one.
Yeah. They're
not being very helpful or specific down at TDS for the moment, but she'll continue to dig for a bit more specifics, because it was a very quick and easy fix if it was an electrical issue.
This is on board now with the 2018 Export car with Paul Lafargue, and right behind him is Timber Ray in the 21 Dragon Speed USA car. This is the battle for 9th in LMP2. drags up on the rear of one of the GT Ferraris. Apologies, Porsche. That was the third Team Project 1 car.
Here's the 28.
And where is the Panis car? There it is. That is the
just
battle.
Behind, yeah.
Cars power down, the run down to Indianapolis. Now the fastest part of this circuit, of course.
And the gap's been coming down, so Timothée Bouet has been able to close in on Lafarge. But to be P9, to be... Okay, they're 2 laps off the lead in LMP2, but they started 1 lap down. So that has been a really strong performance from the 28 IDEC car. The other one is still on the same lap as them, in fact. Is about 2.5 minutes back, with Jonathan Kennard now at the wheel of the 17 machine. But ultimately, considering both of those cars were effectively written off on Thursday,
it's just over a minute back. It's 65 seconds behind.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're absolutely right. I mean, it's a remarkable recovery, but a lot of it through the attrition we've been describing, Ben. Niggles for other cars. And Paul Lafargue is going to have a clean run through here.
Well, he's being nice and polite with that Porsche ahead.
That's the Mentos car.
Gets past it now, but others may have jammed it up the inside at karting and scared the Porsche off. 22 back out onto circuit. Full service this time?
Same driver stayed in, Phil Hansen stayed in, so I wouldn't have thought so. I would have thought just fuel.
Yeah, there is Phil Hansen.
He was on the jacks, though.
Yeah, it looks like it was a longer stop. So a 1:34.
That's a tyre stop.
Yeah, it is a tyre
yeah, he must have taken tyres. I'm sure I saw the car come off the jacks as just before he pulled away. But Phil Hansen, 21 years old.
Which would make you think that he was on used tyres from the previous driver.
Yeah, which is an odd one.
Albuquerque.
Odd to think Phil Hansen, at 21 years old, is here in his 4th time. First time at Le Mans at the age of, was he 16 or just 17?
Driving a Gulf liveried
Tocqueville Motorsport.
Wow.
His first with the Ligier. This is, I think, his first Le Mans in an Oreca. 3 Ligiers, 2 with United Autosports, before that with Tocqueville Motorsport.
Pierre Guidi goes back out onto circuit. Maxime Martin already passed him. Lots of brake dust coming off that Ferrari on that particular stop.
As they go out the pit lane, by the way, just to point out, there's the 2 signs that say RFID.
Yeah, we've done that one already, yeah.
I'll walk away from that
again.
one. Well, I'll explain to anybody who wasn't listening. Reads the tyre codes so that we know that the cars have got the tyres they should have on and not the ones that they shouldn't. The trackside stopping of car 37 at Lmp2 at 21:30 is under investigation. We had something on this before about the car being started with external help.
Yeah.
And that was no further action.
Okay. So the stopping is a problem?
I don't understand that.
And also, that was 2.5 hours ago as well.
Yeah, so maybe more evidence has been provided to Inspector Freitas.
Poor old stewards do live in the past, don't
Yeah.
they, throughout the whole of a 24-hour race.
They'll have someone down there in a 1960s red Jaguar momentarily to investigate.
Leading United Autosports car, the 32, in for a service. We saw full tyres for Philip Hansen, but he stayed aboard the car. Ultimately, he was about half a minute behind that car, as we now take a look at the 91 Porsche. Richard Lietz handing over to one of his teammates. See exactly who that was.
That, I think, was Fred Makovicky.
And now you would assume that the 32 car will come back out in the lead of the race. 91 goes back out the circuit. Now, I think because of the long pit stop for Philip Hansen, he's actually now dropped, I believe he's dropped now into 3rd position.
Yeah.
Behind Antonio Felix da Costa. Da Costa is off sequence because he had a puncture. So it's difficult really to know how that's all going to shake out at the end. But ultimately, a 26-second longer pit stop last time for Philip Hansen because he took tyres. Job van Uitert also. Did he take tyres with a 120? It's a tricky one.
May not have been all 4 tyres, of course. Confirmation, by the way, from the WeatherTech Racing, our Scuderia Corsa, that it was indeed a broken right front shock on the car, and took opportunity at the same time to do a full brake service.
Okay, so that's why we saw the brakes being done.
So Alex, spot on.
So literally the car just kind of flopped as he went through the corner. That's a spark, right. And then he didn't have the same front end that he had before.
Penalties on the way, 10 seconds for the next pit stops of 3 cars. The number 21 car, that's the Dragon Speed USA car, Tim Ray at the wheel of that car, 9th at the moment in LMP2. Number 70, that's the MR Racing Ferrari. That one well down the order after early problems. And the number 89, that is the Team Project 1 car at the moment with Greek driver Andreas Laskaratos at the wheel. All 3 for speeding in the slow zone. So they get 10 seconds added, effectively a stop and hold over and above their regular pit stop time the next time they roll down pit lane.
That's a lot nicer than we saw in practice, where they had to stay for 10 minutes.
10 minutes. That was, I think, a fairly excessive use of the loud pedal at a place where they should have used the other one.
Yeah. It was both in and out, wasn't it, as well?
Yes. It was not good. A bit of housekeeping.
That was what we think was fuel spilt on the floor.
A strange place for the fuel to be, though.
Yeah.
So some kind of oil.
I wonder if actually, as he took the fuel rig, I wonder if he spilled. I wonder if that still had some fuel in the end of that fuel rig. It went under the car, didn't it? It was a strange place too.
I wonder if that will get investigated as well.
You'd have liked to have thought so.
Mike Conway taking the Toyota number 7 out of the pits and into the night as our leader of the Le Mans 24 Hours for the moment. A whole lap ahead of teammate in the 8 car, Sebastian Buemi, in that one right now, lapping in the 26s.
So Mike Conway rejoins the race. Is it going to be the year for Mike Conway, Kamui Kobayashi and Pachito Lopez?
Shush. Not allowed to say things like that.
It was an open question. Making no statements. That would not be my place. Goes through and by the 75 car. 3rd of the Iron Lynx Ferraris. That's a car that was well up there, wasn't it? Power steering problems, I gather, for that car a little while ago.
Driver time on the right-hand side, very much going to plan, isn't it? They each did a quadruple stint, sorry. And the only real reason why some are longer than others is because of our safety car periods that we had. And so Pachito spent a bit longer in the car because that extended their stint. On board, we've got all the details from the Toyota as he kind of gets boxed in. He's flashing the lights of the G-Drive car, but Rusinov held his line.
Well, there wasn't really anywhere for him to go for a short while
exactly. there. He held his line, but there was nowhere else for the Toyota to go until they passed the GT car. All the information. Now, the front left with 11 laps on it. I don't remember them doing just a single tyre on that car.
Not the 7, they did on the 8, didn't they? There was a puncture on the 8.
But the rest of the tyres done 20 laps, but it looked like they might have changed the left front one stop ago.
Let's see whether or not there's any explanation from our friends.
Yeah, thank you very much to all of the PRs.
Very great this race, but fantastic information from.
It was always going to be a little more tricky with the restrictions that COVID has enforced upon us, and whether the PRs are here on site or a little bit further afield. They've been fantastic at keeping us informed, and we thank you all for that. We can tell the story that just little bit better with clear and open information.
Leader of GTM, Charlie Eastwood, into the pits this lap. Let's see how this is going to play out with Ross Gunn. The two Aston Martins fighting for first and second place in GTM.
It's not been a very good day for Fritz van Aert.
No, it's not gone well on the Tour either, has it?
It hasn't gone well on the Tour. They were leading the Tour de France by just under a minute, and their rider kind of dropped the ball, basically.
Yeah.
Couldn't get his feet in the clips when he transitioned from trial to climbing bike. Because unusually, even though it was a 36-kilometer stage, they had a climb at the end of it, so they needed a change of bike. And unfortunately, it looks as though his team will not take victory now in the Tour de France. And they've just come out of the pits and put Nick de Vries in the car, but they're 17th in LMP2 here, having starred really in the free practice sessions when Guido and Nick were aboard.
Yeah, it was early cooling problems, wasn't it, for the 29 car, in common as well, by the way, with the 36 car. And whilst the 36 car has recovered well from that, not so well that they were actually in contention for the leading three positions at the moment, the Racing Team Netherlands car took longer to get through that problem.
And the fight continues with the Aston Martins in GTM. So Ross Gunn did jump Johnny Adam, who's just got into the car of the TF Sport car. So, yeah, 1-2 still, but reversing. And Nicholas Nielsen a further 10 seconds behind.
They have a decent, healthy advantage in the GT Pro now as well. Gaps up to 17 seconds between 97 Aston Martin and 51 Ferrari, and we've spoken many times how close they have been. Here is the LMP2 leader sequence throughout the race so far, and there is another little cloud burst that is not quite making its way to Le Mans. And just to show how many lead changes we've had when we've gone through pit stop cycles, 37 has led, and then the 39 in the early part of the race. The So 24 by Graf. But now it's kind of stabilized with United Autosports. Da Costa now just 5 seconds back from United. He's been able to put in some decent lap times after that puncture that he had.
He's doing much better lap times at the moment, isn't he?
Yeah.
It's hauling them in. Another man doing much better lap times is Maxime Martin in the 352s. When the most that all bar one other car in the class can manage is the 354. The exception is the one that's really out of it. It's the number 92 car down in the 50th place still, but 353s for that car. But punishing pace from Maxime Martin, and the team that's being punished at the moment by that pace is AF Corsa.
We bid Peter Dunbrake a good sleep as he heads off for his little break, and the tingling in the background. I don't know why we've got such an echo in this commentary box at the moment, but it seems like it's a live box. And you can hear Mr. McNish making himself a cup of tea, getting ready to join us in the booth. There's a horrible smell as well. Somebody's obviously got a brake or clutch issue that just drove past.
I'm hoping it's from outside.
Yeah. Oh, right. It's not. It's our cool box that's overheated. It's not a car outside. It is. It does smell a bit electrical, doesn't it?
That's what it was. It was inside.
We're going to have a bit of an issue. Right, thank you to Stockers 212, who's tweeted myself, Ben Consti, and DSC editor. Any thoughts on why the 1 Rebellion is losing time to the 8 Toyota?
It's slower.
That's easy.
Sorry, it's not been, other than for the very earliest laps, it's not been close to the kind of pace that they can produce over a lap or indeed a stint.
And what we've seen in practice also is that they are equal on pace through the first sector of the lap, because the Toyotas are not using their hybrid power through there, and that's why you're seeing equal sectors for the two cars through there. And then obviously when traffic is an issue, then we might see the odd equal sector too. But ultimately, yeah, unfortunately here, the Rebellions don't quite have the pace of the Toyotas. They've had a pretty faultless run of things, just the odd little niggle here and there. And
there was one niggle, wasn't there, early on? I'm trying to think what that was for the Rebellion.
Let me have a look.
But into the garage goes number 57 car, the Wins car. That car is running again some way down the order, isn't it? It is way down the order. Jerome Bleekemolen in 18th position in that 22 car class, and that's not going to improve its run.
Now, what are they looking at there? Front bumpers come off, bonnets come off. Looked like right front they were trying to investigate.
Three-way contact at the we were talking about earlier. Chris Gomondi has tweeted to say he's okay. That's a visit to the medical centre. That was a frightening impact from the number 30 car.
Yeah, I think also he had the impact with the barrier where there was an opening for the marshal post.
Yes, I think you're probably right.
So it kind of slightly changed the angle of impact.
Number 7 car, deep into the night now, and what speed.
There is our top three right now. Mike Conway leads by a lap over teammate Sebastian Buemi, and Bruno Senna, I think, on this stint will lose a lap as well.
About to come to that conclusion.
We're not far away from that happening, and in fact, Nat Boton is not far off being a lap behind that as well.
10 hours into the race, and we're about to get to the stage where on pace the Toyota leading car puts a lap on the first of the Rebellions into the pits. Comes the number 77 Dempsey Proton car. That is the second in the order of the Porsches, but 5th overall in GT Am. Ricardo Pera out. Nielsen Racing enjoying their debut at Le Mans, and whether they might. There.
And we talk about the drivers having dreams of competing at Le Mans, but so many of the mechanics also, this is a dream come true for them. Exactly.
It's a massive buzz for them. These guys, you know, some of these guys basically turn up week in, week out. Club racing, Nielsen Racing under Sven Thompson, and with Stuart Mosley involved as well. A driver, of course, here not so very long ago, Team Brookladdy amongst others, but winning races and titles in Radicals, moving on to LMP3, winning races and titles there, and they're here because they were title winners. They won the championship in LMP3 in Asia Le Mans last year. Tony Wells, one of the two drivers that secured that title for them and the opportunity to step up to LMP2. And I think they've had a taste of it, and I think we'll see more of them in LMP2.
A reminder from Philip Pond on Twitter that that 57 car was involved in a light shunt at just on the exit of Indianapolis, where the 16 car of Ryan Cullen had spun.
Okay.
And don't remember who was in that car, but basically nosed into it. We were a little bit worried about the cooling at the front. But we're hearing, well, let's go down to Alex actually, because it was cooling issues that was perhaps a concern at the front end, but actually you're reporting something different, Alex.
Yeah, it sounds like gearbox issues. They're replacing, they work very hard. They basically are going to keep going until they get back out again.
This is the high-class car, I think, though. This is the 22 car, is that correct, Alex?
Yep, it's the one, high-class racing.
Okay, 33 car.
33.
So, my apologies, 33 car. That car's been in trouble for quite a long time. Kenta Yamashita was in the top 2-3 for, again, that first hour with that real ding-dong battle. But pretty soon after that, started to hit gearbox issues and has been in and out of the pits ever since. 2 or 3 pretty long stops for the 33 car. Mark Patterson brought that car in some while ago, so new gearbox for that car.
Yeah, Alex doing a little sweep of the pit lane to see if the cars that are parked in the garages, what the state of repair. So good to know that High Class Racing are still hoping to get that car back out onto circuit.
They'll want to get across the line if they possibly can. This is a big race for them. Looking more and more competitive as time goes through. Confirmed, by the way, from Al Moffat at Toto Gazoo Racing, no single tyre change for that 7 car.
Yeah, so that's a graphical.
Yes.
A graphical RFID issue rather than them having an issue. Should be all computerized, but then computers get things wrong sometimes.
They do indeed.
Well. Yeah. Stockers has replied to us saying, thank you very much for your response, however short it was, about Rebellion being slower than Toyota.
Sorry about that.
He wants to know, though, because we've actually seen in some of the WEC races, Rebellion being faster than Toyota, thanks to EOT.
Not EOT, I can explain
Not
that.
EOT.
No
Go
problem. I think Alan McNish is keen to talk to the viewing audience, Al.
Yeah, no, I think there's 2 things. One, the EOT isn't actually, sorry, the success...
But the success handicap.
I was looking for the correct word.
Yes.
The success handicap isn't active here.
Yes.
And so therefore there's one thing that was quite clear in practice was on 1 lap, then the actual Rebellion was very fast.
Yeah.
However, if you looked at the averages of long runs, and clearly we're into long runs and stint runs, then the gap was up to 2.5 to 3 seconds per lap average. And that's to do with the way they get through traffic. With a hybrid is definitely a benefit there. Also, the other thing is the way they use the tyres and how they can energize and activate the tyre. And so in reality, what's happening in the race is a reflection of the long runs, especially at night, of what we've seen as opposed to necessarily qualifying.
To explain that in a slightly different way, absolutely spot on. The 2 systems that are in play this year are almost different, almost diametrically opposed. You've got EOT here, equivalence of technology, which is designed to effectively try to balance the performance. Success handicap is the opposite. It almost punishes you for success. What that means is that they'll penalise the more successful cars for the following races, depending on dominance and point scoring, etc., to try to just mix it up a bit over the season, because we've got this absolute machine, the Toyota, against some, let's face it, rather less well-funded. They are spectacularly quick machines, as we saw in qualifying earlier this weekend, but rather less well-funded efforts to keep that championship interesting and alive. So that's basically where we are. Different performance system here at Le Mans. That was always the case against the rules. So success handicap not in play here. Equivalence of technology is, and as we saw on a single lap pace, they did a pretty good job of it.
Not an easy answer, Stockers, but thank you for getting us into slightly technical area of the WEC regulations and, of course, therefore, Le Mans. We're watching and riding on board with IDEX Sport, chasing down Celtar Racing, and that is in that car Roberto Lacorte and Paul Lafarge still aboard the IDEX Sport car. This will bring them into the top 10 if they can get past that LMP2 just ahead. Let's miss the apex through Mulsanne, and surely that's now the opportunity for Lafarge to pick up a little bit more of a slipstream, but he's got a slipstream from a GT car as well.
Should be the quicker car here. I think I just heard some sad news from Alex, didn't I? Down in pit lane, the number 16 car, the G-Drive by Algarve Racing car, is a retirement.
I was so looking forward to seeing that car do well. It had such a great lineup.
It was 2 hours ago that it went into the box, so not really a surprise, especially after all the problems they have where they were only able to do limited number of laps per stint due to some sort of fueling issue. And then after that, we saw them parking in the side of the circuit a couple of times, trying to get what apparently was an electrical fault fixed, which has not happened in this case. So unfortunately, not a surprise for them to go out after being stuck in those problems. But as you say, they would definitely had more speed in qualifying than the race has actually given them.
Well, remember, they didn't do any of FP2 either, did they?
No.
They missed that whole session for an issue.
Yes.
That's braking, wasn't it? It's a brake
Brake
pedal. They
issue.
couldn't
Oh, where's
get
he off
sorted.
to? Oh, that was an easy move in the end. Roberto Lacorta running wide in the Porsche curves and handing the position to Paul Lafarge in the end. It's not the first corner we've been riding on board with where Lacorta's missed the apex.
So just to run through, because I will admit to it, that being a slight surprise, the Cetilar car was running as high up as it was, but the lower ends of the top 10 in this hotly contested LMP2 is an interesting place to look. 7th, G-Drive Racing with the now recovering Roman Rusinov back up to speed. 8th is Sophia Flörsch in the Richard Mille Racing 50 car. A quiet but very effective run from them, incident-free to this point. You know, just 2 hours away from halfway through the Le Mans 24 hours, but for, well, a young lady that, with the exception of a couple of, I think only one race in the LMS, has never done anything other than a sprint race. That's pretty impressive stuff. The 9th place car is the Cool Racing car, 42 car. The most pertinent thing there, of course, is that is the car which Nico Lapierre forms part. The man who's won 4 times here in LMP2 has never been beaten in LMP2, but there's work to do if that car's going to get back into it. And then now the recovering from starting from the back of this grid and a lap down, 28 Edex Borg car, the reigning champions in the European Le Mans Series, Paul Lafargue, moves into the top 10 with Thomas Laurent in the Signatech Alpine Elf car, the car that's won the last 2 Le Mans 24 hours in this LMP2 class. Close to top 10 as well. He's just 4 seconds back from Lafargue now. Away goes the Cetilar car. Andrea Bellicchi, the Don, off back out into the night, his natural habitat. The Don, he's known as the Don. Was always known as the Don when he raced at Rebellion. Mixes his LMP2 racing with, I think, about a TCR now.
The other female car, as we were talking about the 50 machine, is the 85 Iron Dams machine. Rahel Frey is aboard that, and she is looking to do the first, her fastest lap of the race at this point. There are some blue sectors coming in here and there. There's Roberto Lacorte. He's happy with that stint.
It's not very often at this time of night, actually, you get the blue sectors. Usually that means it's the fastest sector of that car during the race so far. Because now is actually quite a difficult point where invariably you're in the crossover of the daytime to the night tyre for a lot of the categories. At the same time, the circuit isn't really cold. It's not in great condition. It's difficult to see where the debris and things is. And so then when it gets a little bit later into the night, it gets a bit cleaner, less cars on track, and ultimately early morning is normally when it really starts to go in. So anybody actually delivering, you know, blue sectors at the moment is doing a pretty good job. Or did a pretty bad job earlier. That's the other alternative.
Well, there's 3 of them right now. Ben Barker is one. Rahel Frey, as Ben said, not Ben Barker, Ben Consaduras, of course, said just a few moments ago, and Paolo Roberti as well going quickly in that middle sector. It's a full green track, as it has been for a remarkable proportion so far of this race.
It's good to see that, actually.
Yes.
Cool Racing getting the service. They're in 9th position at the moment in the pits. Antoine Borger.
That's a lead car in GTE Pro, the Aston Martin 97, running down in towards Indianapolis. The left-hander Maxime Martin's at the wheel of that car, and he's been very quick. He started the car. Alex Lynn started the car. Then it went to Martin. Then it went to Tinknell. And that's their driver rotation at the moment. And they've pulled out a little bit of a gap over Daniel Serra in the AF Corsa Ferrari. We saw earlier on that the Ferraris went onto the soft tyre earlier, and had definite advantage, but it seems to have swung a little bit back the other direction at the moment. Not a lot though, and it's very minimal, because if I talk about it over this stint itself, then it's only basically a couple of tenths of a second is the difference between the two cars, so that it's very much just taking a little bit out each time. It's not as if one's going ahead at a different point. They're just small margins that are the difference between first, second and third.
But only an hour ago they were locked together side by side going down the Mulsanne, so quite sure how the gap has kind of established over the last couple of stints.
It's just purely
little by little,
tiny little margins, and it'll be a little bit in traffic and not getting held up with something, and you know, it's slowly. I can look into each individual lap time if you wish, Ben.
Well, the last pit stops were slightly faster from Aston Martin, a 1:14 for them and a 1:25 for Ferrari. So that's giving Aston 10 seconds to the good, and the gap is 14. So I suppose that partly helps.
More housekeeping from the race control and the stewards. The incident a lot earlier involved the 22 car from United Autosports and the 55. That was the incident that saw Duncan Cameron spinning out and eventually damaged the car.
So it was a 22. We didn't
22.
We didn't know the car that he made contact with.
We did a little later, I think, when you were off Ben, because they did say the incident was under investigation, but it's no further action there too. That deemed to be a racing incident.
Well, that's a relief for United Autosports.
Very much so. The 55 car, sadly, has a knock-on effect of that retirement.
Well, coming to your point, the gap actually has gone out between this 51 with Daniel Serra and the 97 with Maxime Martin, has been just a little bit over each individual lap. However, at the beginning of this last stint, then the out lap and the first timed lap from Serra was quite a bit slower than it was actually from Martin. So he was able to gain about another second and a half, 2 seconds just on those two particular laps themselves. And then after that, Martin's been very consistent. Both have been quick, but it's always just seems to have been a little bit more consistently quick from the 97 car.
And those are the margins that win you a GTE Pro race here. It's always so close between the different marks. Ferrari and Aston Martin, when you see them on the Mulsanne straight, they are absolutely equal on pace. Slightly different tyre strategies going on with Ferrari with softs, and Aston Martin soft at the front, mediums at the rear. Yeah,
but what I can see coming up, actually, which is something quite interesting, is if looking at it on the monitor, the 97 leading Aston Martin is about 20 seconds away from lapping its sister car.
Wow. Well, I wonder if that's why Marco Sorens has just put in his fastest lap of the race, a 3:52, more or less dead, 3:52.013. So maybe he's had the hurry up. Also, by the way, putting in a fastest lap of the race for a car, Matt Campbell in the number 77 Dempsey Proton car.
Now, we saw this with Sebastian Buemi in free practice on Thursday. During the day, he drives with his contact lenses, but in the night, he switches to his glasses. I haven't got to the bottom of why that is.
We've been through a lot of tests on this, because at night you drop just naturally through different light, you lose about 2.5% of your vision, and everybody does, and the older you get, the worse it gets. That's the muscles in the back of your eye, and I'm sure ophthalmologists will be able to tell you a lot better than me. However, there are glasses that basically reverse that. And they're not necessarily glasses that magnify, but they're glasses that change the light impact of it. The issue is that they steam up inside hot cockpits, because, you know, you're sweating all the time, it's hot and it's humid, and they steam up. And so we've been through all of this. We actually looked at it when I was racing, even though I've never used glasses or contacts or anything else, but tried them. However, didn't go through with it purely because of the comfort and because of that steaming up effect, more than necessarily the capability of them.
Presumably now in these cockpits there's enough cold air to stop them from steaming up?
You would be surprised, because air coming in means air going out, which means aerodynamic negative. And engineers don't care.
Yes.
Designers care even less. Drivers are the only ones that care. And so in that respect, it's a case of a balance about trying to reduce it as much as you can. But in terms of Sebastian, I'm not sure if those are actually glasses for correcting vision, or whether they are just like a nighttime glass to correct the effect of the darkness.
I have to say, my 124-hour race experience that I did a few years, I was telling you at dinner.
Yes.
My eyes were so painful after a double stint, so sore. I don't wear glasses, but
you should have replaced the windscreen. You really should.
Yes. Well, you've seen those kind of races. But my God, red for days. Just a strain of trying to see. Naturally, of course, I was racing a very stock car and therefore had rubbish lights. Unlike Alan, who gets to the height of technology when he's doing his 24-hour races.
Just a quick question coming through to us on Twitter, and you're very welcome to ask them. Cathal Doyle asks about the Risi Competizione and WeatherTech Racing Ferrari efforts. Are they using the 2020 spec GT Pro cars or older versions? Bang, up to date, 488 GT3 Evos, Cathal. They are absolutely the same as the factory-backed AF Corsa 51 and 71 cars. We've got a yellow flag at Marshall's Post 3. That's here.
70 car looks like it's stopped. That's a GT Am, not moving very quickly.
And that's
is MR Racing.
It is indeed the car guy, and indeed it's not moving quickly. It's not moving. There it is.
It is beached.
Is that a slow zone then?
It's come from in front. It's come from the left into that gravel trap.
Yeah.
It certainly hasn't come from the right. So he's.
Yeah, but that's impressive.
Yes.
It's a good effort.
It might have come from the kind of...
I'd love to see where it came from, actually, because...
There's no lines. You would expect it to come from where we are and away from us, but there are no lines.
Here we go.
Oh, wow.
Ooh.
Oh, he's...
he tried to recover and drove it straight into the gravel trap. And Alan's now going to find the picture he took earlier on of a VW camper.
In the same place.
Basically deciding he's going to park and then realising he couldn't unpark.
But it looked like he was either very offline or on the gravel in the braking zone.
He was too deep into the braking zone, was going far too fast. And instead of straightening the wheel and just blowing the chicane and coming out at the Dunlop Bridge, which would have been the safest thing to do, tried to actually still recover it when, to be honest, it was non-recoverable.
Yeah.
And that's one of the ones where you just say, right, I've made a mess of this, and try and get out of it instead of trying to recover it later and later. But the oddity was driving into the gravel trap when actually you didn't need to do that at all. That's the one part of it that confuses me more.
Degree of panic, maybe.
Well, degree of comfort and concern about your fellow team member.
Bless. That's going to be a kicking administered later. That's not very happy at all.
Yeah, getting lifted out.
Yeah, so slow zone around this area. Do not be concerned to see that recovery vehicle on track. It's covered by a slow zone, so all the cars going actually from the exit of the Ford chicane.
Yep, the ever clever lift bar with lifting points that are designed for every car on the grid and supplied to every recovery point. Now, on board with Phil Hansen.
Yeah, so Phil Hansen in the pits at the same lap as Antonio Felix da Costa. So one of those is not quite right. Now they're looking at the front right. Is that a concern for the United car?
22's done 10 laps, so Hansen's correct on his stint lengths.
Okay.
And 32 is just above. That's 9 laps, so it's actually pitted 1 lap early.
38. It's 38, Al. There was the other one, da Costa.
Oh, da Costa, sorry, I thought you said 32.
Nope.
Apologies.
Then
he's done 5 laps.
Right.
Yeah, so da Costa with something going on, but there's definitely concern over Phil Hansen's front end there. There was all kinds of tugging going on.
There's someone in the cockpit, but there would be anyway, maybe for drinks, data cards, all sorts of things, but no delay coming out for Phil Hansen.
Yeah, he has come into quite a bit of traffic, though. There's a lot of cars coming past, but concern again then for Antonio Felix da Costa and Jota. They had a short stint a couple of stints ago for a puncture, and now just a 5-lap stint. Roberto Gonzalez aboard into that car. And a full service by the looks of things.
Mark Conway on pit lane as well, as is the Eurasia car.
Again, if you're close to your pit window, then because of the slow zone and the length of it, the time loss if you pit now is better than if you do go and pit under a full green. So people will take the opportunity.
This is the #1 Rebellion getting a full tank of fuel. Bruno Sellner's familiar helmet inside that car. Oh, stalled it. And off he goes. Slow zone will reopen in 30 seconds time, so the Ferrari's been removed from the gravel trap. There's plenty of gravel actually on the track too, which presumably will have had a little sweep. And Paul Lafarge jumps out of the IDEX Sport machine, handing over to one of his teammates.